You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, episode 548, Relativity.
Welcome into another episode of Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Jesse Earl, sitting in for Norman Lau. Each week on Mission Log, we peer into the future by way of the past, exploring each and every episode of Star Trek to find the morals, meanings, and messages. And at the end, we ask ourselves if it stands the test of time, or the test of time travel, as it may be.
That's because this week, we're watching Relativity, the one where Seven goes back in time and then dies, goes back in time again and dies again, and, well, rinse and repeat. When time goes pear-shaped on Voyager. Welcome to the show, Jesse. I am so glad that we get to do this together. You picked this episode.
I know. I am very excited because, I mean, you talk about time going pear-shaped on Voyager. That tends to be a very common thing.
Yes.
And those were always, like, my favorite episodes of Voyager growing up. So when you sort of gave me a list of, like, episodes that you were looking to cover, I'm like, ooh, perfect. This is right up my alley. Is one of my favorites. So
nice. Now, I can't imagine that there are people in our listening audience who don't know what you do and who you are, but if you give us the nickel tour and let people know where to find you and what you're up to.
Yeah, I am mainly known as a YouTuber that goes by the name Jesse Gender on the interwebs, and on that channel I do video essays about science fiction and also queer stuff as well. Basically, the way I pitch myself is if you're a sci-fi fan, I'll get you interested in philosophy and queerness and all of that stuff, and if you're a queer person and you come to my work, I'll make you a Trekkie by the end of the day. Nice. And then also I'm a critic. I've written for different outlets and things, and I have my own secondary review channel called Jesse Gender After Dark. And I'm also a filmmaker myself, where I just recently released a few months ago the movie Identities, which stars, for all of you Trekkies out there, John Delancey is one of the villains and other folks, and it's a fun ode to the age of science fiction where it's big philosophical ideas but limited sets and budget. And it's a lot of fun. You can find that over on Nebula.
I love it, and produced along with friend of the show
Yes.
and Star Trek science advisor, Dr. Aaron McDonald.
Who kicks ass and is one of my closest friends, so...
There you go. That's a good friend to have. All right. If you would kindly tell folks where to reach Mission Log, I would appreciate it.
I can certainly do that. Mission Log is a conversation about Star Trek. You can find the show at missionlog@roddenberry.com and on the artist formerly known as Twitter, aka X, and Facebook at Mission Log Pod. And while you're at it, a review and a rating at Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform makes a huge difference to the podcast you love. Hopefully, especially this one. And always remember, your comments can be used on Mission Log. The Roddenberry Industrial Complex will not be denied. And now here's John with this week's trivia.
All right, thank you. We're talking about Relativity this week, a story credited to Nick Sagan. And we've gotten to know Nick, Carl's son, a bit over the last season. He was the story editor on all of Season 5 of Voyager, and he contributed or co-wrote a handful of stories like In the Flesh and Course Oblivion, just to name a couple of them. This episode marks the end of his script credits on the series, though. Now, we have a teleplay credited to Brian Fuller and Nick Sagan and Michael Taylor, and probably not any surprise to see this combination attacking a story like this. Now, Nick says it was actually one of the easiest and most fun of the teleplays that he directly worked on. For him to call it easy, I can't even begin to imagine, because I had to watch this so many times just to keep things straight in my head.
I feel like at this point in Voyager's run, they're kind of like, yeah, time travel, we got this.
Just do it, yeah. And it's probably also not a surprise to know that Brandon Braga had a big hand in shaping this episode.
A time travel episode with Brandon Braga? I'm
Shocking.
shocked. I'm shocked.
This is my shocked face, right? Now, it was directed by Alan Eastman, and the name may sound a little familiar, but we are at the end of Alan's short list of contributions to Star Trek. We first discussed his work on DS9 with the episode Honor Among Thieves, and then we caught up again with him last season on Voyager for Prey. And third time's the charm, as this is it for Alan. But don't worry, Alan has a lot more under his belt as a director, not to mention directing for another Gene Roddenberry series, Andromeda, and cult favorite sci-fi shows Sliders, to name a couple. Now, I love it when this kind of thing happens. The script calls for a trip to Utopia Planitia shipyards.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah, this is words on a page, right? Mm-hmm. And what the producers were expecting is, we're going to see Voyager in orbit being built. Oh, no. The CG artists were like, look, we're fans. We haven't done this yet. We want to show a lot more. And they did. Mm-hmm. So those glorious shots that we get of all of Utopia Planitia with all of those ships, thank you for there being fans in the production.
Yeah.
'Cause that's how stuff like that works, right?
R.I.P. Utopia Planitia shipyards.
I know.
Kind of gets blown up a little while later, but this
tragic.
Yeah, this shot is. It's honestly, it's one of the like. I mean, I do a lot of video editing on my channel about Star Trek stuff, and whenever I need to like do a shot of ships and things like that, this is one of the shots that I use. It's so gorgeous.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Yeah. All right, now let's meet our guest stars. We get to say welcome back to Josh Clark as Lieutenant Carey before he gets his nose broken by B'Elanna. And then we have some newcomers. We have Dakin Matthews as Vice Admiral Patterson. And here's an actor with just quite a background and still a thriving career to this day. Dakin, like many people we see on Trek, cut his teeth in live theater and continues a director, a drama teacher, a scholar of the art. He appeared in 2014 on Broadway as Mickey in the stage adaptation of Rocky. Interesting, we were just talking about Rocky and Burgess Meredith's role as Mickey as we covered The Fight.
Yeah,
and wondering why Boothby was put into that role.
Was even there.
He's the gardener. Come on. Why is he teaching Chakotay how to fight?
Yeah. He plays that like lower class kind of like, get in there, Rocky kind of vibe.
Yeah,
but it's a weird pull.
Yeah, like he just knows everything and does everything. Starfleet is very understaffed. Now, Dakin's on-screen career began with a guest role on Remington Steele, and he has not slowed down since. He's had recurring roles on Desperate Housewives, Gilmore Girls, and one of my recent favorites from HBO, The Gilded Age, and that's not even touching his feature films like Lincoln or the remake of True Grit, and so far, this is his only Trek appearance.
I'm gonna get him back because he's great. Like he brings us just gravitas and gravitas and yet warmth to his performance really quickly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, it's a good combination to have. Now we have Jay Carnes as Duquesne. Nebraska-born actor Jay Carnes is best known for his long-running gig on The Shield, but he has also had recurring roles on Sons of Anarchy, many more series. And if we move over to his sci-fi roles, he was recurring on The Crossing, he was recurring on the reboot of V, and on Terry Metalis' 12 Monkeys series, which then connects the dots for Jay's appearance in Star Trek Picard, where he is definitely not playing Duquesne.
Not at all. Nope. Don't know what you're talking about. I had that theory for a while, though, on that season. I was like...
Everybody did!
Alas.
I know. Finally, we have Bruce McGill as Braxton, and yes, we did have the character Braxton before in Future's End, Parts 1 and 2, played by Alan G. Royal. Bruce, though, steps into the time ship for this episode, and he is also a familiar face, even though this is his only Trek appearance so far. He has a background in live theater, of course, with a great deal of Shakespeare under his belt, of course. When he started appearing in on-camera roles in the early 70s, he easily switched between TV and feature films. In fact, one of his earliest roles was as D-Day in National Lampoon's Animal House. Bruce was then one of the few from that movie who actually reprised his role in the short-lived TV version called Delta House. Other prominent TV roles followed, many recognizable for our audience, such as Quantum Leap, Babylon 5, and he was frequently on MacGyver. Bruce is he's one of those constantly working actors, and the feature film credits are too many to get into you. I may point you over, though, to some of my favorites like Collateral, My Cousin Vinny, and just for good measure, FDR, American Badass.
Another great character. He plays a great authority figure / villain because there's obviously a villain, and he delivers that so well.
For Captain Janeway, the only thing worse than having to deal with other people's time travel shenanigans is having to take part in them.
Prologue. We open on a throwback to the good old days of 2371, back when Voyager was still under construction at Utopia Planitia shipyards. Janeway gets the grand tour from old friend and professor Admiral Patterson. It's like the first day with a new car, except Janeway is already calling for some custom mods. During the tour, 7 of 9 appears, looking totally human and totally trying to avoid being seen. Act 1, 7 sneaking around Voyager, avoiding small talk with Lieutenant Carey, with a high-tech tricorder scanning for something that she tracks to a Jeffries tube. Turns out she's looking for a temporal device, a weapon to be precise, but oops, she's in the wrong timeline. Janeway almost catches her, but Seven's beamed away to a future time ship right before Janeway follows her tracks and stumbles upon a weird chronoton flux, specifically .003. Seven wakes up on Relativity, but she's dead. Well, temporarily dead. Temporal pun intended. Act 2. The captain of the future vessel orders that they recruit Seven again, and they set a course for Voyager in the past. Back in the present, or at least Voyager's present of 2375, Seven is feeling off, complaining to the doctor about dizziness. It might just be space sickness, definitely not something worse in Seven's temporary state of hypochondria. Space sickness seems to be going around anyway, even affecting the captain. Meanwhile, Paris ropes Seven into a ping-pong tournament. Just as things heat up, the ball freezes in mid-air. Great Scott! It's a temporal anomaly. Heavy. Turns out anomalies are popping up all over the ship, so Seven and B'Elanna get to work tracking the source. At the same time, the doctor realizes the ship's clocks aren't synced. Sickbay is running a few minutes ahead of the mess hall. Time is literally going wibbly-wobbly. Eventually, they find the source, a device in the Jeffries tube that only Seven can see with her Borg ocular implant. Janeway recognizes the chronoton distortion, .003, is the same one that she saw in dry dock and calls for the crew to abandon ship as Voyager tears itself apart. 2 officers from the time ship beam aboard Voyager and take Seven with them, and seconds later, Voyager explodes. Act 3. Hey, don't worry, it's time travel. Seven finds herself again on the Relativity, where Captain Braxton, the future version, explains that Voyager was destroyed because of a temporal disruptor. Their mission, stop the saboteur. Seven's up for it and heads back in time to 2372 during a Kazon attack on Voyager. The catch? She has to avoid Janeway, who has a reputation for causing temporal trouble, aka the Janeway factor. Seven starts scanning for the device just as Voyager's crew go to battle stations to engage the Kazon. Act 4, Janeway's no stranger to anomalies, and she's suspicious when she notices the same chronoton flux, .003, from 5 years ago. Again, she and Tuvok, as they narrowly escape more fighting with the Kazon, head down to the Jeffries tube to investigate the location from the chronoton flux and set up a force field sealing the deck, just as a precaution. They find Seven trapped by the force field, which interferes with her extraction by the time ship. Realizing she's caught, Seven spills the beans. She's a time traveler, sent to stop Voyager from being destroyed in 3 years. Janeway is understandably skeptical, but eventually agrees to help. They work together to track down the saboteur in the Jeffries tube, and it's Braxton? Act 5. Braxton, this one from yet farther in the future and suffering from temporal psychosis, activates his device, threatening to blow everything up unless they back off. He's trying to prevent the entire future timeline from happening when Voyager intervened in his life, see also Future's End, and sent him spiraling into therapy, then psychosis later in life. On board Relativity, Lieutenant Duquesne takes command and relieves Braxton of duty for crimes he will commit in the future. Future Braxton is captured, but not before causing more chaos. Seven chases him through time again, landing in 2371, where we started. As they dodge Janeway from the past, Seven, feeling more and more the symptoms of sensory aphasia from all the jumps, corners Braxton, but he uses his future tech to beam himself to 2375. Seven follows him and chases him through the mess hall, where Seven is playing ping pong with the rest of the gang. She fires at him, but Braxton escapes and she collapses to the floor. Other Seven, the one playing ping pong, asks her what's going on. And just before Future Seven is beamed out, she says, "Stop him, your future depends on it." Braxton is trapped in 2375, his tricorder disabled, and he's beamed back aboard the Relativity some 500 years in the future. And soon after, so is Janeway. There, Duquesne explains as best he can what's going on, and Future Seven explains that she can't jump through time anymore to fix the multiple incursions, though at least Voyager is safe this time. So it's up to Janeway to go back to 2372, stop Braxton the first time, which she does easily when Braxton admits that he trips over a crewman in his haste. So it's back to the future we all go for a final goodbye to the time ship Relativity. In the end, both Sevens will be reintegrated, as will all three Braxtons, before he stands trial. Duquesne then beams Janeway and Seven back to 2375's Voyager with the order to keep their time-traveling shenanigans to themselves. The end. You know, we both mentioned it a moment ago in trivia, but a lot of starships being built in space. That's just cool.
Yeah. It's a cool spot, too, to see. Like, it's one of those spots that, like, Trek fans have heard about. Like, I believe at this point we had already heard about it from Cisco having worked there as well and things like that. And it's just been mentioned offhandedly. So it was, like, one of those, like, oh, we finally get to see the cool thing we've only heard about.
Yeah. So it's nice to see that finally rendered on screen. Mm-hmm. All right, now let me ask you about this. I suppose we both like our Admiral Patterson here.
Yeah.
Strong character. Wish we got more of him, honestly, somewhere else in the series. But there's something that is weird to me. It's this like TV movie trope when two smart people get together and they have this fake adversarial greeting where they start barking out trivia, like arcane trivia, like, tell me the atomic weight of strontium-90. And, the other one, well, it's this because I'm also smart. And then they laugh and then they hug because they're just real people at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those like quick offhanded writing tricks of being like, oh, look, they have a rapport. They can bounce off each other. It just gets you like sense of like, these are old friends sort of thing. I will say I like it decently here for two reasons. One, like his performance is again very warm and he kind of sells that affability really, really well. And then two, I also like it as a reminder of who Janeway is as a scientist, because we obviously we get a lot of that with Janeway throughout the series of like her being interested in sciencey stuff because that's kind of her background. But it is just nice to see a moment where someone calls that out and is like, "Oh, you're a captain, but you're a scientist first," and that connection that he makes with her, I think kind of lends a little bit more familiarity than is typical in these kind of like quick trope usages, in my opinion.
Well, and you need to do those where you boil something down to just a moment.
Yeah.
Like, they know each other this well, they get along this well, here's who they are, go.
Yes.
Because we have
a lot of plot to do.
yeah, we got a lot of plot. Yeah. Nice details, though, as we move around these different time periods. I mean, even Janeway's hair, like, you got to go back to that season 1 bun. It's so nice. And then, what a shock to see Seven without the ocular implant and in a Starfleet uniform.
Yeah, no, that's a good hook. It's a really good hook.
It is. And I love rebooting the EMH that he's just surly and just kind of a jerk, Love seeing Lieutenant Carey, but okay, you're a DS9 fan. This is something that I will always harp on Voyager for not doing right. It's like, you have these characters. Yeah. They have moments. Why don't we get them woven throughout the rest of the series?
Yeah, that's one of the major problems with Voyager is it just never gives this sense of the sense of like they are an isolated ship out in the middle of space in the Delta Quadrant. And I think what it would have helped that is we got to see these regular cast members more. We get them every once in a while sporadically, get this, and then we also get like the what I have called like the two and done appearances, where it's like you get a character in one episode and they're dead in the next one that they appear in.
Right.
So
it happens. Mm-hmm. Now, I swear that as we do this kind of chase, first of all, I hope you noticed, I'm sure you noticed the matte shot behind 7 of the long length of the Jeffries tube. I always like those. Mm-hmm. There's so much empty space behind every room on Voyager. It feels like there is more empty access corridor space than there is actual ship, but maybe that's a smart way to build.
It's like, it's one of those, like finally learned what to do with all that space in the cavernous turbo lift rooms from Discovery.
Right.
It's like we need to use this space somewhere. Might as well make it corridor.
I kind of want a house like that in the future, where like you come in and you only see so many rooms. It's like, oh no, there's a ton of space between the walls. You crawl back there. Yeah,
it's like it's a TARDIS, but it's like it's only between the walls.
It's
a useless space.
That's it. I do like the design of the time ship. Glad we get to spend a little more time there, because it's a tricky thing. You and I, before the show, we were talking about our mutual love of Enterprise and how it's a trick to design to bridge the past and the future in this timeline. And here the past is the 24th century, but we spent so much time there that it feels so familiar. Then you got to change the design language enough for 500 years. That's a big order.
I think they do a good job where you can kind of like see, this is an extrapolation of the Federation, but it's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like their uniforms are off a little bit, and the like LCAR screens kind of look vaguely Federation-y, but not the same. Like it's a
right.
For what I'm presuming the production team not having a ton of time to design something like this, I think they did a really, really great job.
Yeah, agreed.
And I always just as a nerd, I always like, is just scouring memory alpha when you're younger, just being like, ooh, where's the different timeline and where's the different uniforms? It's always fun, so,
you want to see every little detail. Good lesson here, 7 of 9, do not read WebMD, do not self-diagnose. Because, we should all learn that. Glad to see Tom Paris with something interesting to do, like playing pinball instead of just arguing with B'Elanna or working on his car.
Yep.
So, and we have a reference to Chapman. You were talking about the 2 and done. Here's a 1 and done. Chapman had his date with 7, and now he gets a mention, never to be seen again.
It's Voyager.
I liked, CG is coming of age while these shows are being made. Great use of it for the ping pong reveal, the little effect there. Thought that was nice.
I also love Neelix's little, like, when it starts moving again, he does the little, like, they get a point thing. It's a funny little comedic beat. So
it's a fun bit. And I really liked it. If you're going to go all in with messing with the timeline and what these time distortions do, such a simple bit that you don't have to have special effects for, but just the call coming to sickbay before the event happens in the mess hall. That tells you all I need to know.
One of the questions, that scene too, I mean, obviously it's not needed for this story, but there's one part of me is like, okay, so is that a paradox now? Does now they need to wait like that amount of time before Neelix can call the doctor to bring him back? It's like, like we don't get to see that scene because they end on the moment where the doctor says, like, you haven't made the call yet. But then does that mean that they have to make the call? But will they? Because already the guy is passed out and the doctor's there, so he doesn't need to.
Oh, my God.
It's
blowing my mind.
Time travel. It's fun.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's such a good point. Yeah. Really like the little special effect that they introduced with Chakotay in the ready room where his self keeps kind of stuttering to catch up with himself.
Again, a very cheap effect, too. Like, that's probably a little bit more difficult back then, but, like, that's something I could do in my my editing program real quick in, like, 2 seconds today. So it's like very nice.
I mean, you just shoot it once and then you just layer the video. And
that's great.
Yeah, good call. I love a good dramatic cliffhanger moment, and blowing up Voyager. None of the escape pods got away. This is good stuff.
If it's a time travel episode, Voyager's probably gonna blow up at some point. Another that's I think you could make a drinking game out of that at some point.
Right. And I think in the article on Memory Alpha they mention how many times at this point Janeway has died in all of these various time travel episodes.
Yeah.
This is like number 8 or 9.
Yeah, it would have to be. Yeah.
Yeah, you just keep doing it. Keep blowing up Voyager. Keep killing the captain.
Yeah, it's a good way. It's a good ending cliffhanger, you know. So.
Yeah, yeah. Now I know that the story has to move along, but Seven, recruited again, forgets everything again. But she's very agreeable.
Yeah,
she's just like, well, sure, yeah, this makes sense, of course, you know. And I really like her reference to Star Trek First Contact.
Yeah, and her saying you're welcome as well. It's like,
yes.
It's like inadvertently create a federation. Yeah, and it makes sense. What I like is it makes sense for Seven. She's a very practical, I mean, coming out of being a Borg, she's a very practical character. So, like, if someone just says, like, hey, the future's endangered, here's all the reasons for it, it's like, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's logical.
Yeah.
As Tuvok says, it's logical, you know. Yeah. Now, we'll, of course, come back to it when we sum up what we felt about the episode in general. But there's something about the replay value of this show that I think is very good because there are so many details and timelines to follow. But even Braxton, like, I felt like he may have tipped his hat when he's talking about Janeway and stay away from her and blah, blah, blah. But honestly, it fooled me on the first watch.
Yeah.
So I thought, like, oh, okay, this is kind of indicating, then you go back and watch it and you go like, oh, okay, this kind of indicates maybe what's sitting in the back of his mind for years and years.
And I mean, it's a necessary one. I like that scene a lot too because it adds so much to because this is a very plot heavy episode, as we've been constantly joking about, and so you need this twist at the end to like hinge on his anger at her, so to remind us of his previous episode and appearance here, to sort of like get there to be like at least an emotional catharsis there for his character. Sells everything much better. So
yeah, agreed. And I love this moment of when they occlude her implant, and she just kind of reaches up. You can do so much with just a look.
Yeah, it's a great. I don't know if that was like a Jerry Ryan choice or if like something they told her to do in the script, but either way, it's great. And it made me think of Star Trek Picard season 2, where we have where there's that whole arc where Seven chooses to keep the Borg implants instead of having them gone because it's part of her identity. Which, like, as a queer person, I related to that story a lot. I loved that bit. So this kind of like in my own headcanon provides a little thread to that where it's like, oh, she's kind of bothered by the fact that it's not there. So.
I love that. What a great detail. Yeah. When in doubt, you have a Doc Brown moment. Seven just decides to tell the truth. Now, Doc Brown was drunk, but Seven just like, okay, I'm going to lay it all out on the table here. And it's a cool moment of trusting herself that she's doing the right thing and then asking Janeway to trust her. But here's the thing. All right, so many times in a time travel story or a kind of mixed identity story, whatever, it always comes down to a character saying, no, I know you and I'm the real one because I remember when we had this conversation or you revealed this secret to me. But here it's just kind of a generic line about trust.
Yeah.
Like, you told me that part of being human is learning to trust. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Probably anybody would have said that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, the episode needed a better setup and payoff for that. Like, I think it's because it's so much plot. They needed to have like a scene earlier in the episode where Seven and Janeway had a moment, and like Seven and Janeway said something emotional to Seven. Janeway says something emotional to Seven, and then it gets paid off here, but we don't get that setup and payoff, so it doesn't really land. So, but
their relationship is just so good anyway, and you hope that those seeds are planted. They really do. They really do. Yeah. I love when Braxton goes, after we heard Braxton complaining about the Janeway factor, I love him greeting Janeway like Jerry greeting Newman. You know, it's just like Janeway. Hello, Janeway.
That's great. That's a
so
great
good.
Quote. Yeah.
And then, I love Braxton greeting the future you. Like, it's just, as this gets more complicated, I love it. Yeah.
Yep.
So Duquesne saying, I am relieving you for crimes you are going to commit. That is very worrisome to me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is precog stuff from
I was going to say that
Report.
is straight up Minority Report stuff
Yeah.
in there. Yeah.
Not Starfleet at all. So
it's one of those things that's like, it makes me sad that we never got like a more deeper look at the temporal Cold War era, because this is like Brandon Braga clearly had a fascination with time travel stuff and future things. So like this technically bridges into, if you look at the timeline, into the temporal Cold War that we get in Star Trek Enterprise. And it would have been just very interesting to me to see like a lot of the ethical conundrums that would come up in time travel stuff like that, and this is one of them. And so it's just it doesn't sound very Starfleet, but it's interesting to me because that's just like, oh, that opens up an interesting can of worms, and it even provides like a interesting ethical question about this whole episode of like, Seven just kind of works for these people, no questions asked, because it benefits Voyager, but like, are these the good guys? Are there more sort of ethical questions here? Yeah.
We will dig deeply into that then.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a weird, this is kind of a throwaway thing, because we've got two sevens. We got 29th century 7 and 24th century 7. We've got 3 Braxtons at a certain point, and the Duquesne's like, they're going to be reintegrated. I'm like, what? Hey, whoa, hang on.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, and my question is like, because I always thought of it, because I remember when I was younger, I saw that bit, and I was just like, oh, yeah, that makes sense to me, because I'm a kid, and I'm like, yeah, that's sure, that nonsense makes sense to me. Now I'm older, I'm like, the ethics of that are really, I shouldn't swear, are really messed up. Yeah. I think I put in our notes, it's a reverse Tuvix situation if I ever saw one.
Exactly.
It's like, because one Braxton hasn't done anything yet. Right. One's committed a crime, and I forget even where the third one even fits into it. All two of them have. Yeah. So, like, is it right to integrate one Braxton who's not done anything into the other two and prosecute them all? Like, the ethics of that is really messed up, and yeah, because like you're preventing this Braxton who hasn't done anything a chance from not choosing to do that. It's.
Yeah. Well, all right. And the other lesson, and we're going to put a pin in this and come back to it in the next section, because there is, again, this other throwaway line here, like, there's incursion factor of 0.0036. Sure. Okay, but 20 light years away, is there a civilization that gets wiped off the map, wiped out of history because of that incursion? But here it's just time travel. Just don't talk about it.
Maybe someone doesn't get born. It's fine.
Yeah, don't talk about it.
Does everyone aboard the Relativity work a full shift, or do they just manipulate time so it looks like they worked a full shift?
We'll get right back to Relativity after a word from this week's sponsor, Great-O the Ut-O.
Hey everybody, we'd like to welcome back a sponsor that is something really special for all the parents, kids, and Star Trek fans out there. It's called Great-O the Ut-O by J.D. Atlas. And trust us, this is a book that you're going to love. In the spirit of Gene Roddenberry's ideals, Great-O the Uh-Oh is more than just a fun read. It's a mission to create a better world, just like our favorite Starfleet officers would.
And one thing that's super fun about this book is all the incredible character designs. Let's talk about Great-O himself for a second. He's got this head that's like a cross between a star and a jester's hat. Kind of appropriate. Spoilers, won't get into why, but trust me on this. And a ridiculously short cape on his skinny body. I mean, he's just so quirky and memorable, right?
Those are the two perfect words for it, yeah. And then there's Millie. She's got these uniquely pigtailed hairstyles that you just can totally see inspiring some future cosplay. I mean, she's definitely got that iconic look down. And let's not forget Wizzo, the kiddo, who may or may not be Millie's alternate reality twin with her superhero helmet and boot thrusters. Yeah, there you go. Just another great cosplay idea.
And we can't leave out Crystal, the stylish goth girl in a Black Widow spider outfit. Definitely a showstopper.
And then you've got No-No's Rose, a flower that's literally shaped like cartoon stink lines, and it smells like them too. And Cuckoo Maru, this crazy mirror contraption that feels like something out of a retro sci-fi dream. A little bit of a Fab Four reference there for you too.
These characters are reminiscent of some of your favorite cartoon icons like Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century, or SpongeBob SquarePants. There's that same level of wild, out-there creativity, but with a positive message behind it all.
And that's really what it's all about. And here's the fun part. Grado the Uh-Oh is a book loved by kids and adults. Fun equals a million volts. And that's exactly how it feels when you're reading it. We love the wild rhymes and the wacky adventures of Millie and Grado. It's a bright, high-energy story that's a blast from start to finish.
And there's more to it than just fun. There's a message about standing up to bullies in a positive way. Millie makes a wish to the stars, and Grado shows up with his superpowers, but even he stumbles sometimes. It's Millie who ends up leading the way, showing that you don't need to be a superhero to make a difference. That's the kind of story I love sharing with my kids.
And Earl, I was going to ask you about that because as a father, you must have a little bit of experience of trying to share stories with positive messages for your kids. This book seems right up there with the best of them.
Yeah, and there is kind of a message. I strongly encourage parents to read to their kids, by the way, and there's a lot of studied evidence that is, it's a wonderful experience to begin with, but it also has lasting benefits. But I got something out of this book, too, which is that as much as I want to help my kids through little problems, big problems, whether it's learning to walk without falling, or whether it's standing up to someone who is giving them a hard time, sometimes if I jump in the middle of that, like a big klutz, kind of like Grado the Uh-Oh, I stand a really good chance of not allowing them to achieve what they could on their own. So there might be something for the grown-ups in this book. So definitely one to read to and with your kids and pick up a little something yourself in the process.
I love that, and it'll test your rhyming skills, too. So you can't miss this one. The book is Grado the Uh-Oh by J.D. Atlas. You can find it at gradotheUhO.com/missionlog. That's Grado, Grato, VTHE, UHOH.com/missionlog.
And hey, when you pick up a copy, leave a review on Amazon or wherever you buy books. Your reviews are super important and really help authors like JD get the word out. Plus, you get to tell the world you attended the school for gifted little ones and twos. That's a little book reference you'll catch when you dive in.
So join Millie and Grado on their wild, colorful adventure, Grado the Uh-Oh by J.D. Atlas. Go check it out. And remember, fun equals a million volts. All right, Jesse, there were a couple of points that we started to discuss in the last segment, and I feel like, these are deep dive topics here. Mm-hmm. And I will preface that by saying that this is a fun, light time travel romp. Mm-hmm. So maybe we're not getting what we call on Mission Log, the bonk bonk on the head moments.
Yeah.
But there are interesting ideas here. Mm-hmm. First of all, did we learn anything from Year of Hell?
Nothing. Well, because no one remembers it whatsoever.
Because it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you got the big old reset button. So there's a time incursion of 0.0036. Mm-hmm. And whatever shape this Starfleet in the future takes, where you have a time division, or maybe this is mostly what they do in the 29th century, they're just like, yeah, we go around changing stuff, and we send agents back in time, and we're watching this on a big computer, kind of like Anorax did back on the Krenim time ship.
Yep.
Does that not screw things up somewhere for somebody every single time?
No, it's what I was talking about before. Like, there's especially at the back half of this episode, there are so many ethical questions that get brought up here that are just kind of glanced over. And Janeway and Sarah are like, yeah, it's fine. It's Starfleet. And it's really one of those missed potential things that it happens sometimes with Star Trek, where you're just like, oh, that's such a cool idea that they didn't do a ton with, that I just wish we had gotten more chances. Year of Hell is kind of the similar idea, so at least there was some focus on it in Voyager and those concepts. But here, there's a part of me that's always finds interesting, Starfleet doing some kind of surreptitious stuff, especially in this era of Star Trek, like the Voyager and Enterprise era. It was a little less willing, I think, to interrogate Starfleet's complicity in doing kind of terrible things, because it's like Starfleet is the thing that's always right.
Right.
You would get a little bit more interrogation of it in Next Gen, especially Deep Space Nine, or even something like early Discovery as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And honestly, I mean, we already had an episode of Voyager where you had a bad guy, Ray Wise, with a fake Federation ship, which they did their due diligence to figure out that it was a fake Federation ship. And this, here you've got Seven of Nine and Janeway. Yeah, we're from the Federation. We're from Starfleet, and it's 500 years in your future. Like, yeah, absolutely, that tracks. We get it. We're on board.
Same team. It's all right. I recognize the uniform.
yeah. And you would. This is a ruse that any sufficiently advanced enemy of Voyager, and let's face it, there are a lot of them in the Delta Quadrant. They could use this to their advantage.
Very easily so.
Yeah. A little surprised that they don't get further into that. All right, let's pick apart one of those other ethical, interesting, questionable things that you mentioned. And that is, well, there's reintegration, but that is for the purpose of getting Seven back where she belongs, and also getting Braxton where he belongs, which is on trial for something he didn't do. Now, I will try to be the most generous that I can be with this idea, which is that if you're on a time ship, you could theoretically also go forward, and you can say, oh, no, wait, this is the Braxton who can be diagnosed with time or temporal psychosis. What do we do with him where maybe we can treat him before he does this thing?
Yeah.
But then you have no story? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the temporal psychosis thing, too, kind of like opens up a whole other unintentional can of worms, too, because then it's a mental health thing. And it's like, then is he responsible for his actions, or like, is this a society that's more interested in incarceration than like health? Which again is just another that's an interesting question but we don't dive into it. And it's weird to add that in there, because it would have, I personally feel like, if they just wanted a simpler story with a stronger villain, you could have just said like he had a bone to pick with Janeway. And I think the reason it's probably in there is a matter of practicality, where you want to be like, the Braxton that's working with them right now isn't against Voyager, but the Braxton of the future is, and so you explain that with like, well, he went mad in that time. Yeah. But it opens up a can of worms, I think, like, weakens the episode because it sort of takes away agency from the villain a little bit. So.
Oh, see, that's a really interesting idea. So, okay, Braxton could have just been Braxton all along with this bone to pick.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting. If you don't have the temporal psychosis, I guess you could still have Seven experience the aphasia that she has by doing all these jumps, something unique to her, combined Borg human
or like
technology.
Braxton doesn't jump that much himself either, so it's kind of like maybe it's just a thing that Seven's getting to like add that sort of interesting factor in there. But yeah, I can see why it's there, because then you have to explain why Braxton has a bigger bone to pick in the future than he does now.
Right.
But and then again, it gets the ethical questions of like, well, reintegrating the past Braxton and future Braxton when one didn't and the other did, and then you have the mental health stuff, and it's just like a whole ethical can of worms that I'm like, wow, I have no idea how you would even untangle like the ethics. Like, I want to sit there. This is the nerd that I am. I want to find the like HR handbook of the time ship and be like, here's all of our ethical policies on time travel.
Right.
This has got to be ridiculous.
Well, because think about it. They're at a certain point on the time ship where Braxton is presumably just, he is okay. He is mentally stable. He is doing his job. And then there's another point at some point in the future where this psychosis kicks in. He's having serious problems, making bad decisions. So somewhere in between those 2 points in time, something changes. And it seems like if you're going to have a Starfleet that has a time ship and you already know all of this information.
Yeah, you could just head it off. And you're willing to mess with timelines, you could just head it off. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's, again, ethically, like, what would a Starfleet look like that has this ability? And do they just at some point say, you know what, we should actually abandon this?
Yeah.
Because, not that we've ever heard of the Krenim because they don't exist, but imagine an alien species that figures out how to do this and keeps screwing up the timeline every time they make a jump. Mm-hmm. And more to the point, ethically asking ourselves, like, well, what is the quote-unquote right timeline? Mm-hmm. Because maybe, back to Braxton's point, maybe the right timeline is one where Voyager is destroyed.
Yeah.
Because they cause some other huge problem. Or maybe there's another timeline where something else that seemingly is the wrong thing to happen is actually the right thing to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those, like, our heroes get to, like, live because they're our heroes sort of thing without, like, really questioning it. It's why it's like I have ethical issues with the Prime Directive when it comes up, and I mean sort of Star Trek generally, but the temporal Prime Directive, I'm always like, makes perfect sense to me. You just try and, like, nope out of the situation. Because it's like, who gets to determine what the right timeline is? What's the best? I mean, that brings us into, like, stuff like Marvel's Loki kind of had asked that same question as well.
Yeah.
So,
But I think that honestly is the appeal of time travel stories in science fiction. Mm-hmm. Because there's a little bit of that fantasy, like, oh, I would make different decisions, or, oh, I wish I could revisit this, or, oh, I wish I could see what something will be like beyond my natural time here. But I think on a deeper level, we look at a time travel story and we go, okay, look, my life has played out the way that it has because of a number of factors, most of them out of my control.
Yeah.
But I need to understand that there is not a prescriptive right or wrong. There is just what has happened.
Yes.
It is up to me to make the best of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, time travel stories like this, I mean, I mentioned Loki, but, like, time travel stories like this where you have an organization sort of getting to dictate things with a timeline, I think are... I've been joking about the ethics of it, but they are really, really interesting questions because it brings into these questions of who gets to decide things, what's considered like normal, or what's considered to be the proper course of action, or the proper way things should exist. As a queer person, I am constantly thinking about like how society gets to tell who's normal or not. Right. And so the same sort of things here kind of get brought up. And it's one of those things, too, like with 7 of 9, I kind of said earlier, it makes sense for her being so agreeable, but she's getting killed and put in danger to write a timeline and be used at the hands of these time agents. And it kind of leads me to question, like, hey, for example, like 7 of 9 of Star Trek Picard era, where she's much more upfront about her own autonomy and feelings. Would she be someone who would be like, no, that's not okay? Because 7 of 9 of this timeline, of this era, is sort of someone who's like, yeah, I'm used to being overridden by the Borg and sacrificing myself for the greater good. But as she's grown as a very overt queer character in Picard, I have criticism of that show, but I love her characterization there. And I think it's her recognizing, like, I was mistreated. I want to kind of represent have my own personality in a way that I never got to before. And I look at that version of the character, and I think she would have come into this situation and be like, no, actually, you don't, like, what are the health risks? Like, what, like, it's, and it's interesting, too, that this episode shows her being kind of a hypochondriac, too, because that's another thing that I would have been interested to delve into as her character of, like, worrying about her own health, because that's something that she probably never would have really thought about. Like, in the Borg, a sick drone would just get tossed aside and thrown out for the greater good of...
They literally pull them apart
for
and
parts.
recycle the parts. So, interesting.
I'm not going to believe these people are real time travel experts until I see a computer display showing that they're hacking too much time.
All right, we made it through so many jumps all over the Voyager timeline. I know, look, I'm trying to stave off the temporal psychosis as best I can just to get us here to the end of the show. And as we do on every episode of Mission Log, we wrap things up with two very important questions. One, asking ourselves if the episode holds up, and two, asking ourselves if there is a message, a moral, or a meaning to take away. What did we learn at the end of the day? Now, Jesse, this first question, does the episode hold up? Vaguely worded, just because there is no right or wrong. It's purely your subjective take. Does the episode hold up? Are there ideas that are maybe undermined by production, or the other way around? Who knows? What do you think about Relativity?
I mean, I kind of always have to look at episodes like this on two levels, because on one, I think it holds up really well as just a fun time travel episode. It's an episode that I actually come back to fairly regularly, as just say, like, if I'm scrolling through, it's just like it's a rainy day or I'm feeling sick, I'm like, this is a fun episode of Voyager that I enjoy. It feels very, it has a fun tale, we get some cool timeline stuff, and it feels like a nice resolution and cool, and it's just a fun little episode. But on the other hand, it's one of those episodes that I constantly see come up, especially in Voyager and Enterprise too, in this kind of era, where it's like there's interesting ideas here that I think are really, really cool, but don't fully get taken advantage of by the episode proper. And it's just like it pokes at those ideas and kind of like says, here they are, but doesn't really delve deeply into them, which I think is a sadly recurring issue with Voyager, where sometimes it brings up interesting ideas but doesn't fully explore them. I think that's ultimately the other side of this. So basically, does it hold up as a fun episode? I think, this is a great fun episode, one of my classic just comfort food episodes of Voyager. But as a sort of larger, deep, thoughtful science fiction that we know Star Trek can deliver, I don't think it holds up as well.
Yeah. I mean, I use the magic word, which is fun. It is just a fun episode from beginning to end. I would even say, there are all these corners of this that don't get explored. I could see this being a two-parter.
Yeah.
But then I think, but we did the two-parter.
Year of Hell,
Yeah, we already did Year of Hell, and if we're not going to learn anything from it because we can't learn anything from it, then I guess we have to do this one this way, where we just make the assumptions right away. Starfleet, still the good guys. It's really just this cat and mouse game jumping around to catch the bad guy.
Yeah.
But all of that is very satisfying.
Indeed, yeah.
Exactly. It is, like you said, the comfort food. And, as you said, Brannon loves those time travel stories. And the more time travel Trek does, you got to figure out, how do you keep it new? How do you keep it fresh? And they, I think, figured out a way to keep it new and fresh here.
Yeah.
We're doing the fun, light version as opposed to the Year of Hell, dark, contemplative, really
pathos-driven,
really tragic stuff. But this one as a production has got a lot running for it.
Oh, yeah, agreed.
All of the performances are good. I think the pacing is good. The effects are really nice. They hold up quite well, even though, if you look closely, sure, it's 90s CG, but whatever, it looks good.
Watch it on the original CRT TV as it was intended to, and then you won't notice
the way to do
thing.
it. Yes. And I think just sort of laying out all the pieces of the story the way it does, I think that is all very satisfying. And like I mentioned before, it makes the replay value quite good. That's something that I always get concerned about, because I know I'm watching an episode 3-4 times before I do the podcast, and maybe you watch it once, you go, that was fine, but I sort of figured it out, now I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But we can watch it a few times and go, oh yeah, like that still works. This one still works.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you watch it and it doesn't leave anything wanting as you are enjoying it on its own terms. Like, we have a bunch of these cool ideas that I think could be explored deeper, and certainly this episode's not really interested in exploring them any deeper. But unlike other episodes where I'm like, that's a cool concept that, like, it feels like you got wrong, or it was messy, or it was weird. Like, this one just goes and you kind of like, that makes sense to me in the moment. So.
Right. So given all of that, and given that we have had a light, breezy conversation here about this very fun episode, we still ask, is there a moral, a meaning, or a message here? And to me, I feel like there are these interesting, hypothetical, ethical questions kind of happening in the background, like what does it mean to reintegrate? What does it mean to arrest somebody for a crime they have not yet committed? But the episode isn't about that. You know, those are plot points in an episode that is fun. Now, when we hear about the tragic downfall of Braxton in the future, he is definitely a more of a needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many kind of guy. But that's too bad. I mean, he is a guy suffering from a mental health crisis. And it doesn't necessarily seem like Starfleet of the future is ready to deal with that one.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a problem there. So I don't know if there is a "you see Timmy" moment in this episode. I don't know if there is a save the whales message, but it is fun. And I guess if I ever find myself on a time ship, then I get to ask these questions
Exactly.
of my fellow Voyagers. What about you?
Ask to see the manual. Like I said, as soon as I get on a time ship and I'm there and I'm like, ooh, this is all cool. Can I see your manual? I am fascinated.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with you. I don't feel like there's a strong one. I mean, if I had to really think, I think there might be some core in the trust message that we have between Janeway and Seven, but even that doesn't, it feels like it's just kind of there for a moment and doesn't feel like it's a real big through line for the episode. So yeah, it's difficult. It doesn't seem to be a real message. It just feels like it's just a fun, breezy episode meant to do some time travel shenanigans and get us out. So I think trust, maybe a vague trust message, but that's really about all I can get out of it.
But that's interesting because trust is given to us as a part of a core part of humanity.
Yeah.
Janeway has to trust Seven. Seven has to trust Janeway. Janeway trusts Duquesne and Braxton, which I guess is okay. But remember, swindler Ray Wise showed up, and everybody's like, yeah, we should trust him. And Janeway's like, no, don't trust him.
Yeah.
Let's figure out all the reasons to not trust him. And she's right. So sometimes you have competing ideas here, unless they're human.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like you could see trust where it's like, oh, we always have to trust each other and get that, but then it's one of those things where the episode doesn't bring up where trust can go wrong, and it feels like there's so many ways it could within this scenario that it's like it's hard to pick that up as a strong thread too.
Right.
Yeah,
all right, so we'll chalk this one up to a great deal of fun, and this has been fun talking to you, Jesse. I really appreciate you coming on as a guest co-host, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yes, please do. I would always love to.
Mission Log is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. If you'd like to support us directly, you can do so at patreon.com/missionlog for early access to shows and the Mission Log Discord. Our website is missionlogpodcast.com, and for more Star Trek news and discussion, visit trekmovie.com.
And on the next Mission Log, Warhead.
Some of the music for Mission Log provided by Warp 11, online at warp11.com. Special thanks to consulting producers, Matt Esposito, Homer Frizzell, Rand Hurl, Tom Kozak, Julie Miller, Mike Richards, Mike Shadwell, Paul Shadwell, and David Takechi. I strongly suspect that the abrupt arrest of the time ship captain is to prevent him from ever giving himself the nickname Action Braxton. End transmission.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.